So before we look at the differences between these two types, let's look at the similarities. They're both made of sil nylon. They both have 5 sides. Each side is 2.2 meters in length. I checked with measuring tape and they are exactly the same size. And each tarp comes with guy out points on each corner and in between each corner. And beyond that, that's pretty much where the similarities end. So one of the first differences I noticed between the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar and the AliExpress version was that the fabric felt quite different. The Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar has quite a waxy feel to it, and I noticed that just when little drops of water off the grass or the trees landed on it, they seemed to bead a lot better than on the AliExpress version. So I did a little experiment in my garden to see whether that was the case and whether the water would bead off as well. Now that experiment clearly showed that the water beads off the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar a lot better than the AliExpress one, and that's going to mean that it's more waterproof, that when you pack it up in the morning you're going to be able to shake a lot more of the water off, and obviously it's going to be lighter when you put it in your pack and drier. It's not going to get all your kit quite as wet as it would with the AliExpress version. The other thing is if the water is beading off, the sil nylon isn't absorbing water, so it's not going to become as saggy in the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar. And that means that you're probably not going to have to go out and tighten it up during the night as often as you might have to with the AliExpress version. Another really obvious difference between the two is the size of the stuff sack. I mentioned in my first video that the stuff sack for the AliExpress version was just too small, and it was really difficult to get the tarp in there, especially when it was wet. Now Mountain Laurel Designs have provided you with a really nice big stuff sack, so it's going to be really easy to get your tarp in there. And although it's bigger, it does compress down really small to a similar size as the AliExpress one. I checked the weight between the two stuff sacks and there was a 10-gram difference between the two. But I think that the weight penalty is worth it just for the practicality of having a larger stuff sack. Another difference that you can notice between the two is that the fabric of the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar is quite opaque. You can see the guy lines and the line locks through the fabric. Now when you pitch the tent, that's going to make the tent feel a lot more airy, a lot lighter, and that might be something that some people appreciate. Other people might like the privacy of a tarp that doesn't let in as much light and perhaps show your silhouettes. Now Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar is available in different colours which will probably be less opaque, so you can get it in a green, a grey, a white and a camouflage, and you can also get it in Cuban fibre as well, which is going to be obviously a lot more expensive but a lot lighter. So it is available in a lot more different varieties than the AliExpress version as well. So let's have a look inside the stuff sack to see if we can notice any more differences. We'll pull it out, let's see what we got. The long guy line, I believe the chap I bought it off, he had cut it, which is what I've done with the AliExpress version. But I've noticed that it comes with a line lock on it, and it's a glow-in-the-dark line lock. I noticed this when I slept out in it the other night. So it's going to make your tarp a little easier to see in the dark, but also when you're setting up, it's going to make that long guy line a lot easier to adjust with that extra line lock. Another thing I've noticed is that the guy lines on the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar are a lot thicker than the guy lines on the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar. Now that's a good thing because the guy lines that were provided with the AliExpress version were too thin and tended to slip through the line locks. So Mountain Laurel Designs have provided the correct thickness guy line. So again, that's another bonus point there. When we look at the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar, I can see that there is triple stitching along the seams, and the AliExpress version just had the double stitching. So that's going to make it a bit stronger, obviously. Along the edges, they have taken a different approach. They've rolled the fabric over and then put a single line of stitching. In the AliExpress version, they have used a double layer of stitching, but they put a hem, like a different type of fabric, along the side. On the corners, they both use a single line of stitching, but I've noticed that the stitching on the Mountain Laurel Designs version appears to be more in line. It's also a much looser stitch. The stitch on the AliExpress version was very tight, and it may be that Mountain Laurel Designs have gone for a looser stitch to allow some movement of that reinforced piece of fabric. If we look at the corners of the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar and the AliExpress Trailstar, all of the corners on the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar are intact. There's no sign of wear and tear. There's no ripping, no fraying. Everything is as new. However, in the AliExpress version, there was quite a few of the corners had started to tear, and the reinforced fabric had started to pull away and fray. Now, I think there's probably 3 reasons that's happened with the AliExpress version. The first is, as I said, they've used a much tighter stitch, and it may be that that's allowed less movement of the reinforced fabric and therefore caused it to rip. Another reason is I think that the workmanship of the AliExpress tarp is not as good. Some of the stitching isn't quite in line, and I think that's probably caused some of the ripping to occur as well. And thirdly, probably the most important, is the difference in the quality of the fabrics that have been used between the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar and the AliExpress version. I've noticed obviously that it's torn on the AliExpress version, but not on the Mountain Laurel Designs version. I noticed that it was very easy to put my peg through the stuff sack of this bag when I was packing away the pegs. And on the Facebook page for Mountain Laurel Designs, Ron Bell, the chap who designed the Trailstar, did a fabric strength comparison between his Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar and the AliExpress version, and the results are quite surprising. I'm going to provide a link at the bottom so you can see that video if you're interested. Basically, he put a small tear in the Mountain Laurel Designs version, got his fingers in and really tried to pull, and he was barely able to tear the fabric at all. Whereas with the AliExpress version, he put a small tear in, and literally with 2 little fingers he just ripped it like it was a piece of paper. So the difference in fabric quality is really quite considerable. So if we carry on looking at the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar, another big difference I've noticed is at the peak. On the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar, they use a reinforced ripstop fabric on the peak, and not only that, they've used one single piece of reinforced fabric formed in a cone shape, and they've sewn it onto the peak. Now, that is good for a number of reasons. One, they're using a stronger fabric than the rest of the tent, whereas in the AliExpress tent, they've used the same fabric, so you're not really adding that much extra strength. The other thing is, by adding a cone, there's less chance of water ingress through the stitching holes that you had with this. With this, there was 5 separate panels all stitched on, so there's 5 seams where that reinforcement was added. And as you remember from the last video, you could see the light shining through those seams because they were under so much tension. When I've pitched the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar, that has not been the case. Light has not been getting in through the reinforced patch. Another thing you'll notice is that there is a hanging point at the top of this tarp. Now that's going to be really useful if you're using an inner tent to hang the inner tent from that. But also if you've got a torch or a lantern that you want to hang, that's going to be a really useful point as well. And that's not the only hanging point. there is also a hanging point halfway along each of the seams, which is going to be really useful for, again, hanging an inner tent, or if you want to dry clothes, you could hang up a clothesline and hang clothes off that. I've used this tarp only on one occasion so far, and I used it with the AliExpress inner, and the clips were really useful for clipping onto the back of the inner, just to pull it out a little bit more and let it open up a bit better. The AliExpress Trailstar doesn't come with any hanging points, so if you want hanging points, you're going to have to put them on yourselves, which isn't going to be an easy job. One other thing I've noticed is the line locks that they've used on the AliExpress version are generic line locks, and they look pretty flimsy compared to the ones on the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar. These look like the official line locks. They look like they're going to hold the line a lot better, and they look like they're less likely to snap or break. So again, that's a bonus of the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar, that they've used the proper accessories on their tarp and not cut corners and gone for the cheaper ones. Okay, so far the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar has proven to be better than the AliExpress version in every conceivable way. However, the AliExpress Trailstar does have a couple of trumps up its sleeve. The first one is that it weighs 81 grams less than the Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar. Now I think we can probably explain the difference in weight by the fact that the Mountain Laurel Designs version has really thick, strong, reinforced fabric at the peak, uses a bigger stuff sack, and also is made with much better fabric. So I don't think the 83 grams difference is really worth it. I think you probably want to go for this instead of saving the 83 grams. The other difference between the two, and perhaps the biggest difference, is price. This AliExpress Trailstar will cost you £40, including postage, pegs, import duty, tax, everything. The Mountain Laurel Designs Trailstar costs $230 US, which is about £180, which is fantastic value. However, the problem is, to get it in the UK, you've got to pay for postage, which is £25. You've got to pay for import duty, which is another £25, and then on top of that you've got to pay VAT, which is £50. So it's going to set you back £280, which is 7 times more than what you'll pay for the AliExpress tarp. Now I think both of these tarps have a place. With the AliExpress version, if you're a hiker who has never used a tarp before, you've only stuck to tents, then this could be a good purchase. Something for you to try out, see if you like, and if you like it, you can go on and buy the real thing. If you don't, you can put it on eBay and let somebody else have a go at using it as well. Or it could just become your kids' play tent that you use in the garden. If you're an experienced hiker, an experienced ultralight backpacker who's used to good quality gear, skip the AliExpress one, just go straight for the Mountain Laurel Designs one, because the quality is superb and it will last you for many years to come. Okay, so that's the end of today's video. If you've enjoyed it, please remember to press the like button and maybe think about subscribing. There will be some more gear reviews and trip reports coming out shortly, but until then, thank you for watching Adventure Light.